Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial bite, which will be a comprehensive guide to the game controls, overlays and commands in Oxygen Not Included. I'll be pointing out hotkeys as I go along, and I'd recommend getting familiar with these as it will make your gameplay much smoother and quicker. Jumping right in, the basic camera controls use the WASD keys, and zooming in and out is controlled with the mouse wheel. You can also hold down the mouse wheel or middle mouse button to drag the camera around. The game has 3 speed controls, which are shown in the top left, and can be cycled through by clicking the buttons or using the tab key. The spacebar pauses and unpauses the game. Moving to the overlays, these can be seen in the top right of the screen and can also be accessed via the function keys. I should note here that you don't start with all of these visible and need to complete the relevant research to unlock them all. I'll briefly summarise each one and talk you through why they're useful. The oxygen overlay is on F1 and shows where the dupes can breathe. The blue parts are oxygen or polluted oxygen, and the red areas are extremely low levels of oxygen, unbreathable gases or vacuum. You can use this to monitor areas that are safe for your duplicants. F2 is the power overlay and shows wire runs, including how close circuits are to overloading. This is automatically accessed when building a wire. F3 is the temperature overlay and shows areas that dupes can be comfortable in. It's also important for monitoring areas that are temperature sensitive, such as farms or industrial areas. The material overlay is on F4 and can be overwhelming when used without any filters. I primarily use the gas filter, which allows you to track the difference between oxygen and polluted oxygen, as well as the flow of other gases. Additionally, this is a good way to check liquid locks and vacuums. The liquid filter is also useful for this, as well as identifying liquids in mixed pools. The other filters are mostly useful for finding natural resources around the map. On F5 is the light overlay, which is good for checking the sunlight for solar panels, as well as showing the lighting pattern for ceiling lights and sun lamps. The plumbing overlay is on F6, which shows you your pipe runs as well as which packets of liquid are in the pipes. This is very similar to the ventilation overlay, which is on F7, which does the same but for gases. The decor overlay is on F8 and shows you the decor values that dupes will experience on every tile. I will cover this more in depth in another tutorial bite. The germ overlay is on F9 and shows germs that are on surfaces and in the air. For example, food poisoning on the toilets, which duplicants might get on their food if they don't wash their hands. The plant overlay is on F10 and shows growing plants, both wild and domestic, as well as how far along their life cycles they are, or if they aren't growing. On F11, the room overlay shows rooms in a base. It has useful information like the area enclosed as well as a critter count, and shows specific room bonuses. Listed down the side are all the types of rooms you can make, the associated requirements and benefits. Note that F12 is the default Steam hotkey for taking screenshots, so isn't used. The next overlay is the exosuit overlay on left shift and F1. And personally, I don't use this because I don't believe it has a practical use. Shift and F2 is the automation overlay, which shows automation wire routing and logic gates, as well as each wire's red and green status. This is accessed automatically when building an automation wire. The conveyor overlay is on left shift and F3, which allows you to see solid shipping routes as well as the material that are on them, and similarly is accessed when building a conveyor rail. Finally, left shift and F4 is the radiation overlay, which is only in the spaced out DLC. This shows you the amount of radiation per tile, which is important for keeping dupes safe, plant mutations and generating rad bolts. As that concludes all of the main overlays, I'm going to move on to the building categories, which are found in the bottom left. These can be accessed using the keys in the number row on your keyboard. Starting at 1 we have base, 2 is oxygen, 3 is power, 4 is food, 5 is plumbing, 6 is ventilation, 7 is refinement, 8 is medicine, 9 is furniture, 0 is stations, minus is utility, and the plus or equals is the automation. The shipping and the rocketry use left shift and the minus and the plus buttons, however that's practically too far to reach. The radiation button does not have a default key byte. Further, there are more useful buttons in the bottom right that can be used to issue commands. Dig uses the G key, cancel is on C, and deconstruct is on X. Note with these two that you can choose which layer they apply to in the filter down here. For example, if I select to cancel liquid pipes, it will only cancel the pipes and not the reservoir. Priorities can be found on the P key and can be used to see the relative importance of all the tasks, but I will go into this into more detail in another tutorial bite. Disinfect is on the I key, but personally I don't really find much use for this. Sweep is on the K key, but must be used with bins which are set to the correct filters. Note that if you use a bin without the sweep only option checked, Jupes will automatically collect resources without a sweep command. When sweep only is enabled, this will ensure that only material with a sweep command is collected into that bin. Note that for liquid bottles, these can only be swept into bottle emptiers and must also be set with the correct filters. This can be used in conjunction with the Enable Auto Bottle feature, which allows duplicants to use pitcher pumps to pull the liquid and empty them into the bottle emptiers, thus providing a manual way to move liquids. T is for the attack command and is used to kill critters. Most critters will not resist, with the exception of hatches and poker shells. Be especially careful of stone hatches and smooth hatches that have high amounts of health and can injure lone dupes if attacked. M is for the mop command and can be used to bottle up liquids that are less than 150 kilos per tile. Note that this is the only constraint, so it is possible to clean up small spills even when they are within larger liquid pockets. N is used to wrangle critters, which can then be used in conjunction with a critter drop-off to manually move critters around. Note that not all critters can be wrangled, and critter traps, fish traps and airborne bait may be needed to be used instead. Y is the harvest overlay, and this allows you to choose whether dupes harvest both wild and domestic plants. Examples where this can be useful include choosing to harvest wild plants or not harvesting plants in a Draco stable. Finally, Insert is the pipe emptying tool and is best used in the plumbing overlay. A duplicant will empty the pipe segment, creating a bottle rather than spilling it on the floor, but this can only be performed by a dupe with the plumbing skill. Note that if the liquid is moving, the task will remain active and will only be completed when there's no liquid left in that pipe segment. Therefore, you usually want to stop the liquid flowing before using this command. At the top of the screen, many menus can be accessed. V is a shortcut for the Vitals tab. F is for consumables. The period key is for the scheduling. L is for duplicant priorities. J is duplicant skills. R is for the research tree. And Z is for the star map. Finally, I wanted to make you aware of some keys that aren't clearly marked in the user interface. When clicking on a building, it can be duplicated using the copy button, which is on B. Pressing O when placing a building will allow you to rotate them where applicable. Generally, Escape can be used to cancel whichever action or command or overlay you're currently in. The # button is used to copy settings from buildings. For example, when planting a seed, you can copy the setting to other farm tiles. This also applies to other building settings. Pressing the H key will return you to the printing pod on your home planetoid. Another tip is when building pipes or wires, you can hold down the Shift key to build in a straight line. Another way to do this is to hold your mouse still and use the WASD keys. Pressing Alt and S will enter picture mode, which allows you to zoom out much further than you'd normally be allowed to. Pressing Escape from here will bring the interface back and allow you to zoom in and out. Note that when you zoom the camera back into within the limit, it will relock the maximum zoom. So that was a full rundown of all the controls, overlays and commands in Oxygen Not Included. I hope you learned something new, even if you're an experienced player, and thanks for watching.